The first rays of dawn spilled over the jagged peaks of the Hindu Kush, painting the rocky ridges in bruised purples and fiery oranges. Lieutenant Jake "Hawk" Harrison crouched behind a jagged outcrop, binoculars pressed to his eyes. His breath formed clouds in the frigid air, each exhale a reminder that even small movements could betray him. The SEAL team had been inserted hours earlier, deployed to a valley deep in hostile territory where every rock and crevice could hide a deadly enemy. Hawk's instincts hummed with tension. They had rehearsed this operation countless times, satellite images memorized, escape routes mapped, contingencies drilled. But the mountains didn't follow rehearsed plans. The wind whistled across the cliffs, carrying distant echoes that sounded like warnings or perhaps threats. "Eyes on the ridgeline," whispered Petty Officer Ramirez, kneeling beside Hawk. His finger pointed toward a cluster of jagged rocks half hidden in the morning mist. Hawk squinted. The rocks seemed innocuous at first, but something about the way the sunlight caught them made him uneasy. The team froze, every muscle taut. In these mountains, a single misstep could trigger an avalanche of death. Hawk's gaze scanned every contour, every shadow. And then he saw it, a glint of metal high above, perched like a predator on the ridgeline. A sniper's scope reflected the first light of dawn, invisible to anyone who wasn't looking. Hawk's stomach tightened. Before he could shout a warning, the first shot rang out, a clean, piercing whistle that tore through the morning air. It struck the ground inches from Ramirez's shoulder, sending shards of rock and dust into the air. The team dropped instinctively, hitting the dirt with a synchronized precision that spoke of years of training. "Sniper," Hawk hissed into the radio. His pulse pounded in his ears, every nerve screaming. The voice on the other end crackled faintly, static masking any response. Hawk's mind raced. They had expected resistance from insurgents, maybe a firefight in the valley below. But a sniper positioned so high, so meticulously hidden, was a variable they hadn't accounted for. Whoever it was, they were skilled, patient, and deadly precise. He signaled the team to hold position. Petty Officer Ramirez, Daniels, and Specialist Cole froze behind the rocky outcrop, eyes scanning the peaks and the valley. Hawk's own heart drummed a frantic rhythm. He knew the rules of mountain warfare. You never underestimate someone with a higher vantage point. Every shot could be fatal. Then another whistle split the air, closer this time. Hawk felt it through his chest, the impact of danger, invisible but tangible. The sniper wasn't just observing. He was teaching them something: fear, hesitation, doubt. Each crack of the bullet was a message: we can reach you anytime, anywhere. "Hold steady," Hawk whispered. "We move on my count, eyes everywhere. Don't give him a chance to pick us off." The team prepared to advance. Every movement was measured, deliberate. Hawk led the way down the narrow ridge, boots crunching on loose gravel, rifles raised and ready. Below, the valley stretched out like a labyrinth, shadows twisting around rocks and ridges. Every shadow could conceal a rifle barrel, every dip could hide a hidden enemy. A sudden flare of movement caught Hawk's eye. There, barely visible against the misty valley floor, were figures, insurgents, moving fast, converging from multiple directions. Hawk froze. His mind raced. They weren't just being watched, they were being herded. Someone had planned this trap. "Multiple contacts closing in," whispered Ramirez, voice tight with tension. "Too many, can't get a clean shot without being seen." Hawk's pulse spiked. He radioed command, but only static answered. The mountains swallowed their signals. The SEALs realized with sinking dread that extraction was impossible, at least for now. They were on their own, surrounded in terrain that favored the enemy. Another shot rang out from above, echoing off the cliffs. It struck a boulder near Daniels, sending a shower of stone and dust into the air. Daniels yelped and scrambled for cover. Hawk lunged, pulling him down behind a jagged rock. "You okay?" he barked. Daniels nodded, face pale, teeth clenched. The sniper's shots were methodical, deliberate, and terrifyingly precise. Hawk studied the trajectory, the angle. Whoever was up there knew the mountain like the back of their hand, predicting every move, every instinctual reaction. "Sir, he's moving," Ramirez whispered, eyes wide. "The sniper, he's repositioning." Hawk's mind raced. They couldn't just stand here. Every second they lingered, the odds of survival dwindled. He needed a plan fast, but moving in this terrain, under the eyes of a sniper with a deadly rifle and a perfect vantage point, meant every step could be a death sentence. Hawk glanced at his team. Ramirez's knuckles were white on his rifle, Daniels shaking but trying to hide it, Cole staring into the valley like he could see the invisible enemy. Hawk took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm, to focus. Panic was the enemy now. Precision, patience, and courage would be their only allies. "Listen up," Hawk whispered, voice steady but low. "We can't fight him from here. We move fast, use the ridges, hit the cover points, and we make for the left flank. Keep your heads down, watch each other's six. One mistake and it's over." The SEALs nodded, every movement silent, controlled. They shifted slightly, each step a negotiation with the treacherous slope beneath them. Hawk led the way, scanning constantly, every sense alert, every nerve screaming danger. And then another shot. This one grazed Hawk's shoulder, tearing through the fabric of his uniform. Pain flared, but his focus didn't waver. He pressed forward, dragging Daniels with him. Behind them, Ramirez fired a suppressing shot toward the ridgeline, hopping to distract the sniper even for a second. Time seemed to stretch. The mountains held their breath. The wind carried only tension, only the faint echo of bullets tearing through air and stone. Hawk's eyes never left the peaks. Somewhere out there, the sniper watched, waited, calculating their every move, ready to strike again. "Keep moving," Hawk hissed. The SEALs followed, hearts hammering, boots scraping over loose gravel, every instinct screaming danger. The valley below stretched ominously, a labyrinth of shadows and jagged rocks, hiding unknown numbers of enemies converging on them. And above, somewhere in the craggy heights, a sniper's scope glinted one last time in the rising sun, aiming, calculating, waiting. The wind howled through the jagged peaks, carrying the faint metallic scent of gunpowder. The SEAL team pressed themselves against the rocky cliff, breaths shallow, muscles taut. Lieutenant Jake, Hawk, Harrison's shoulder throbbed where the sniper's bullet had grazed him, but he ignored it. Every second wasted was a second closer to death. "Multiple contacts moving fast," whispered Petty Officer Ramirez, scanning the valley below. His eyes widened as small groups of insurgents began converging from different directions. "They're closing in from three sides. Too many, too fast." Hawk's jaw tightened. The SEALs were trapped between the unseen sniper above and hostile forces below. Every step forward was a gamble with their lives. His mind raced, searching for a solution. Retreat was impossible. The valley offered no cover, and the ridges were death traps under sniper fire. "Daniels, you good?" Hawk asked, keeping his voice low but steady. Daniels gritted his teeth, his leg throbbing from the earlier scrape. "I'm fine, mostly, but we can't stay here. We'll be sitting ducks." Hawk nodded. "Exactly, we move, low and fast. Ramirez, take point. Cole, cover our six, let's go." The team shifted, using the uneven rocks for cover. Their boots crunched softly against loose gravel, each step calculated. Hawk led them down a narrow, winding trail that hugged the mountainside, where one slip could send a man tumbling hundreds of feet. The sniper above was silent for now, watching, waiting. Hawk could almost feel the predator's eyes on him. A sudden movement caught Ramirez's attention, a flash of camo material against the dust of the valley floor. His hand went up, signaling the team to halt. Hawk squinted and froze. Shadows shifted among the rocks below. Small figures, armed and moving with disciplined precision, were closing in. "Ambush," Hawk muttered under his breath. Before he could react further, the sniper fired. The bullet tore through the air, striking a boulder mere inches from Ramirez. Dust and small stones exploded into the air. The SEALs hit the ground instinctively, adrenaline surging through their veins. The sniper's first shot had been a warning. This one was a message, One more mistake and death. Move, Hawk barked. Zigzag down the slope, cover each other's 6, keep low. The seals scrambled, sliding down the treacherous trail. Their rifles were ready, eyes scanning for movement above and below. Each second brought new tension. The insurgents below were advancing, moving like shadows among the rocks, trying to predict their path, cutting off escape routes. Another shot rang out from the ridgeline. Hawk felt the bullet's rush of wind as it passed dangerously close. He ducked behind a boulder, heart hammering. "He's adjusting," he shouted. "Keep moving." Ramirez peeked around the edge. "Sir, this isn't just a sniper. Whoever it is, they're trained, military trained. Look at how precise they are." Hawk swallowed hard. It wasn't just a fight for the objective anymore. It was survival. Every instinct he had as a SEAL, every ounce of training, had to come alive in the next few minutes. The mountains were no longer just terrain. They were a battlefield engineered by someone who knew them intimately. The team pressed on, moving in a serpentine pattern down the narrow trail. Hawk's rifle was ready, fingers itching, eyes scanning the ridges for the slightest movement. Dust and small rocks skittered down the slope as another sniper round struck the ground behind them, sending Daniels sprawling forward. Hawk grabbed him, pulling him to cover. "Daniels, hang on," Hawk hissed. The young SEAL gritted his teeth and nodded, his face pale but resolute. Pain sharpened every sense. Hawk realized that each step forward required courage beyond simple bravery. It demanded precision, trust, and unrelenting focus. Suddenly, a flash of motion caught Hawk's eye high above, the faint outline of the sniper shifting against a rock ledge. Hawk froze, heart pounding. The sniper had repositioned. Every shot fired was a calculated risk, designed to keep them pinned and fearful. Hawk signaled to the team, using hand gestures they'd practiced countless times. Split formation. Ramirez, flank left, I'll take right. Cole, cover middle, move on my mark, he whispered, voice steady despite the racing blood in his ears. The SEALs followed his lead, moving in perfect synchronization. The mountains, steep and treacherous, threatened every step. Hawk's boots slid on loose gravel, sending a small rock tumbling down the slope. He froze, imagining the bullet that could follow instantly. Silence stretched for a heartbeat, then the soft hum of wind masked the danger. But the sniper had not forgotten them. Another shot ripped through the air, striking a boulder mere inches from Hawk's shoulder. Pain flared, a hot sting cutting through his adrenaline-fueled focus. He ignored it, pressing forward, dragging Daniels with him, every movement a negotiation with death. Ramirez fired back instinctively, bullets tearing into the cliffside above, but the sniper had already vanished behind a craggy outcrop. Hawk could feel the invisible predator calculating their next moves. "Keep going," Hawk hissed, dragging Daniels along. "We're not targets, we're hunters now. Eyes open, every shadow could kill." The SEALs advanced, the trail narrowing. Below, the valley twisted in shadows, a labyrinth designed by nature to ensnare the unwary. Figures darted among rocks, trying to anticipate their route. Hawk realized with grim clarity that the sniper had planned this, using the terrain, timing, and psychological warfare to isolate them. "Sir," Ramirez whispered, voice trembling despite his calm exterior. "We can't take him head-on. He knows the angles, he's predicting us." Hawk clenched his jaw, heart hammering. "Then we draw him out, force him to reveal himself, but we don't stop moving. One mistake, one hesitation, and it's over." They reached a narrow ledge, barely wide enough for 2 men side by side. Hawk glanced up, scanning the cliff ridges, every nerve screaming danger. He could almost hear the sniper's breath in the wind, could feel the invisible gaze tracking them. The mountains were alive with menace. And then a single, horrifying realization. From the corner of his eye, Hawk noticed another shadow moving on the opposite ridge. Another sniper, or a team lying in wait, hidden among the rocks. Every route seemed compromised. Hawk radioed silently, using hand gestures for the team to maintain tight formation. The tension was palpable, every second stretching into eternity. The snipers calculated, patient fire had turned their mission into a deadly chess match. The morning sun had climbed higher, casting long, jagged shadows across the valley, but it did little to warm the tension hanging over the SEAL team. Lieutenant Jake "Hawk" Harrison pressed himself against the cliffside, his shoulder still throbbing from the earlier scrape. Beside him, Daniels gritted his teeth, the young SEAL's leg trembling from the minor injury he'd sustained under fire. Every second brought the unmistakable pressure of unseen eyes from above, and every movement felt like the wrong one. Hawk's binoculars swept across the ridges, trying to pinpoint the sniper's location. But the mountain seemed alive with shadows that shifted just beyond the edge of vision. Every glint of sun off rock could be a scope. Every gust of wind could carry a warning. Hawk's gut tightened as he realized they were not just being pursued, they were being hunted. "Sir," Ramirez's voice was barely audible over the whistling wind. "High-caliber fire. He's trained, precise, surgical. This isn't a random insurgent, this is someone who knows exactly what they're doing." Hawk's jaw clenched. He knew it the second the bullets had started flying. The sniper was not only trained but also patient, calculating, and methodical. One wrong move and it would be fatal. The team advanced cautiously, moving in tight formation along the narrow ledge that edged the cliff. Loose gravel skittered underfoot. A single misstep could send someone tumbling into the chasm below. Hawk led the way, eyes scanning constantly for movement, fingers gripping the rifle so tightly his knuckles turned white. Then the next shot tore through the air, a searing whistle that rattled their nerves. A fragment of rock exploded near Daniels, throwing him to the ground with a grunt. Hawk lunged, grabbing him and pulling him to safety behind a jagged boulder. Dust and debris filled the air, stinging their eyes. "Daniels, are you hit?" Hawk barked. Daniels shook his head, pale but determined. "I'm okay, just got thrown." Hawk exhaled slowly, trying to steady himself. "Good. Stay down, stay low. Ramirez, give suppressing fire on my mark." Ramirez barely nodded, hands steady as he fired a few controlled rounds into the cliffs above. The sniper had vanished, melting into the craggy rocks as if he were part of the mountain itself. Hawk knew this was a game, a psychological game designed to unnerve them, to erode their confidence. The SEALs pressed forward, weaving between cover points, moving in a tight, serpentine pattern down the slope. Every step was deliberate, every movement rehearsed. The valley below yawned wide, dark and twisting, filled with unseen threats. Hawk realized the insurgents below were working in coordination with the sniper above, trying to herd them into kill zones. "Sir, the enemy's splitting up," Ramirez whispered, eyes darting between ridges. "Some are coming up the valley trying to flank us." Hawk felt the pressure mounting. They couldn't stay put. The sniper's fire had been relentless but controlled, a terrifying indicator of the hunter's skill. Hawk adjusted his stance, breathing shallow but controlled. Every instinct screamed danger, but his mind raced for solutions. "Split formation. I'll take right. Ramirez left. Cole, stay middle and cover us," Hawk instructed, using subtle hand signals they had drilled countless times. His voice was calm, but inside adrenaline coursed like wildfire. The SEALs moved like shadows along the cliffside, sliding over loose gravel and clinging to jutting rocks. Every sound, wind whistling through cracks, the distant echo of birds, felt like an omen. Hawk's senses were stretched to their limits. Suddenly, a flash of movement high above caught Hawk's eye. The sniper had repositioned, shifting along the ridgeline. Hawk could just make out the faint outline of the figure against the sunlit rock, a perfect silhouette. Every muscle in Hawk's body tensed. The sniper's next shot could end a life instantly. Another bullet ripped through the air, striking a boulder mere inches from Hawk's shoulder. Pain flared, hot and sharp, but he forced himself to stay upright, pulling Daniels along. The team scrambled for cover, hearts pounding. Hawk's mind was in overdrive, calculating angles, predicting the sniper's next move, trying to turn the tables. "Keep moving," Hawk barked, voice cutting through the chaos. "We're not sitting ducks, move." The team advanced cautiously, moving through the serpentine path with the sniper's eyes seemingly on them at all times. Hawk realized that the mountains were no longer just terrain. They were a weapon, wielded by someone who knew them intimately. Then came the worst realization. Hawk noticed another glint of metal, this one smaller, closer to the trail they were navigating. Another sniper, perhaps, or someone with a sidearm waiting to ambush them at a choke point. Hawk signaled the team to freeze. Silence fell, broken only by the wind. The sniper above had paused, waiting for them to make a mistake. Hawk's pulse raced. He knew the only way to survive was to force the sniper to reveal himself. But the risk was immense. One misstep could mean the death of the entire team. Daniels, Cole, Ramirez, eyes sharp. "Move on my mark," Hawk whispered, scanning the shadows for movement. "We bait him, then we strike." The SEALs obeyed instinctively, every motion silent, every breath controlled. Hawk took a deep breath, raised his rifle, and aimed at the general location of the sniper's earlier position. His finger hovered over the trigger. Suddenly, the sniper fired again, too close. Hawk felt the rush of air as the bullet tore past. Rock shards sprayed around him. Daniels yelped and clutched his leg instinctively. Hawk lunged, pulling him behind cover. The sniper was not just shooting. He was playing with them, testing their reactions, forcing them into mistakes. Hawk's teeth clenched. Whoever this was had trained for this kind of psychological warfare. Hawk glanced up, squinting against the morning sun. The sniper was gone. The ridgeline above was silent, empty, or so it seemed. Hawk knew better. The hunter never left the prey. He was waiting, watching, calculating. "All right," Hawk muttered under his breath. "We can't keep running. We have to climb higher, take the high ground ourselves. If he's above us, we'll never win from here." The team began a careful ascent, using narrow ledges and handholds to pull themselves up the cliffside. Every second was tense, every move calculated. Hawk's mind raced, trying to anticipate the sniper's next shot, trying to turn fear into strategy. Halfway up, Hawk's boot slipped on loose gravel. Time seemed to slow. He grabbed for a jagged edge, heart hammering. Below, the valley seemed empty, but a flash of metal caught his eye. The sniper had reappeared, closer than Hawk had realized, taking aim once more. Hawk's pulse thundered in his ears. The mountains had become a theater of life and death, each rock a stage, each shadow a weapon. The SEALs pressed on, inching closer to higher ground, knowing that one wrong step could be fatal. The higher Hawk climbed, the thinner the air felt, each breath a labor, each heartbeat a drum of imminent danger. The jagged cliffside cut cruelly into his palms as he pulled himself up, muscles screaming with effort. Daniels followed as best he could, gritting his teeth against the pain in his leg, while Ramirez and Cole moved cautiously behind, scanning every shadow for threats. Above them, the sun glinted off a distant ridge, hinting at the sniper's possible positions. Every rock, every crevice could hide a rifle barrel, every ledge could be a death trap. "Sir," Ramirez whispered, voice tight with tension. "We've got company. I see movement, not just him. Others, hidden, maybe ambush positions waiting for us below." Hawk froze, heart hammering. He scanned the cliffs and ridges with binoculars. Tiny flashes of movement betrayed the presence of men camouflaged against the rocky terrain. Someone had been planning this. Every ridge, every crevice, every path down the valley had been accounted for. The SEALs were not just being hunted. They had been lured into a kill zone meticulously laid out by someone who knew the mountains intimately. "We can't fight them all head-on," Hawk muttered. "We move higher, gain a vantage, force the sniper to reveal himself. Keep quiet, keep tight." The SEALs nodded silently, each aware that the slightest misstep could trigger a deadly volley of fire. Hawk led them up a narrow path, loose gravel sliding beneath their boots. The wind howled, whipping dust and small pebbles into their eyes. Every sound echoed ominously across the canyon, masking the distant whispers of the enemy. A shot cracked the air. Hawk dove behind a jagged boulder, dragging Daniels down with him. The sniper's aim was unerring, bullets pinging off rocks dangerously close. Hawk's shoulder throbbed where he had been grazed earlier, pain shooting through him with every movement, but there was no time to dwell. They were being watched, studied, herded like prey. Ramirez fired back a few controlled rounds toward the ridge. The echoes seemed to taunt them. Whoever was up there had already disappeared, melting into the rocks like a phantom. Hawk felt the familiar chill of adrenaline crawling up his spine. The sniper wasn't just aiming to kill. He was toying with them, learning their patterns, calculating their instincts. "Keep moving," Hawk barked, voice sharp. "We can't stop now." The team pressed forward, moving in a tight formation. Hawk led Daniels along a narrow ledge, fingers gripping the rough rock. Each second stretched into eternity. He could feel the sniper's gaze on them, invisible yet tangible, and now there was something worse. The shadowy forms of other enemies waiting below. Hawk's mind raced. The mountains had become a deadly labyrinth, the rules rewritten by someone who knew the terrain better than they did. The narrow trail offered no escape, and the sniper's perch above gave him near-perfect control of their movement. Suddenly, a glint caught Hawk's eye, a faint movement on a cragged peak, too small to be the sniper from before. Another figure crouched low, blending into the rocks. Hawk froze, adrenaline screaming in his veins. This wasn't just one enemy anymore. There were multiple positions, all coordinated. "Sir, he's flanking us," Ramirez whispered, barely audible. "Another shooter, maybe more. They're setting us up." Hawk's jaw tightened. Every instinct screamed danger. They had to move, but moving meant exposing themselves to sniper fire, ambushes, and the precarious ledge beneath. He assessed their position, calculating angles, predicting enemy movements. There was a narrow ledge leading to higher ground, a chance to force the sniper into a shot where the SEALs could counterattack. But the path was perilous. One slip would mean falling hundreds of feet to certain death. "All right," Hawk whispered, voice calm despite the pounding in his chest. "We take the high ground. Ramirez, cover left. Cole 6, Daniels, stay tight, I lead. Move slow, move smart, don't rush, eyes open." The SEALs obeyed instinctively, moving like shadows along the cliffside. Hawk's fingers dug into jagged rocks, muscles burning, lungs straining. The higher they climbed, the more they realized the sniper had planned this route meticulously. Each footstep was calculated to expose them just enough, every angle of rock and ledge designed to maximize danger. Then came the first real warning. A sharp shot rang out from above, closer than before. Hawk's heart skipped. He rolled behind a jagged boulder, dragging Daniels down with him. Dust and small pebbles sprayed into the air. Hawk could hear his team's shallow breaths, their tense whispers. "Sir, he's waiting," Ramirez said, voice tight. "Up there behind the ledge, he's not moving, just watching." Hawk swallowed hard. They weren't just climbing, they were walking into a trap, but it was the only chance they had to gain control. He scanned the terrain carefully, plotting the next move, every muscle taut with tension. Suddenly, another shot cracked the air. This one wasn't aimed at a boulder, it was aimed to warn. The bullet tore a shallow groove along the cliff just inches from Hawk's face. He could smell the ozone in the air, feel the vibration of the rock. The sniper's presence was like a ghost in the mountain, unseen but all-encompassing. Hawk clenched his teeth. Move now, no hesitation, eyes everywhere. The SEALs shifted, climbing with painstaking caution. Each step was a negotiation with the rock beneath their hands and the invisible threat above. Daniel's legs shook with pain, but Hawk urged him forward. Ramirez and Cole kept a constant scan, rifles raised, eyes flicking between every shadow. Halfway along the ledge, Hawk paused. A faint glint of metal caught his eye, a rifle barely visible behind a rock ledge below them. Another enemy. The sniper above wasn't working alone. They were facing a network of trained fighters, hidden among the rocks, ready to strike. Hawk signaled for the team to freeze. The mountains were silent except for the whispering wind. Every heartbeat seemed amplified. Time stretched. Then came the sound of a branch snapping below. Hawk's instincts screamed danger. The hidden enemy was moving, positioning, preparing for an ambush. "Get ready," Hawk hissed. "They're going to make their move." The SEALs tightened their grip on their rifles. Hawk's eyes never left the ledge ahead. Every muscle in his body was tense, every sense heightened. The sniper above could strike at any moment, but now the hidden enemy below was about to reveal themselves. The morning sun had climbed higher, yet the mountains seemed darker than ever. Shadows stretched like fingers across the jagged rocks, hiding dangers that the SEALs could only guess at. Lieutenant Jake "Hawk" Harrison pressed himself against a jagged boulder, heart hammering in rhythm with the distant echo of gunfire. The sniper above had fired again, the bullet tearing a groove in the stone inches from his head, and the hidden enemy below had emerged, rifles raised, moving with precise coordination. Hawk's jaw clenched. They were pinned between two deadly threats, the invisible sniper above and a semi-visible enemy network below. Every instinct screamed that one wrong move could be fatal. Every muscle in his body was taut, every sense stretched to its limit. "Daniels Ramirez Cole, eyes sharp," Hawk whispered, voice tight but controlled. "We can't just react, we need a plan. We can't outrun him. We need to force him to make a mistake." Ramirez nodded, eyes darting nervously between the sniper's presumed position and the shadows where enemy figures crouched. "Sir, they're smart. Too smart. He's predicting us." Hawk swallowed, trying to push down the rising panic. This wasn't just combat. It was a psychological game, a test of nerves. The sniper's earlier shots were not just about hitting them. They were about making them hesitate, making them doubt their instincts. The hidden enemy's positioning below added another layer of danger, turning the mountains into a trap that could swallow them whole. "All right," Hawk muttered under his breath. "We draw them out, but we do it smart. Ramirez, flank left. Cole 6, Daniels, stay tight, I'll take right. Eyes everywhere, move on my mark." The team moved silently, every footstep calculated. Loose gravel slid beneath their boots, sending small rocks tumbling into the valley below. Hawk's hands burned from gripping the jagged rocks as they climbed, but he ignored it. Pain was a distant concern compared to the razor-edge tension of survival. A flash of movement high above caught Hawk's eye. The sniper had repositioned, crouched behind a rock ledge, body almost invisible against the sunlit stone. Hawk's pulse surged. The sniper's next shot could kill anyone on the team in an instant. Hawk's finger hovered over the trigger, heart hammering. Another shot tore through the air, striking the rock near Daniel's shoulder. Daniels yelped, scrambling for cover. Hawk lunged, pulling him behind a jagged boulder. Dust and small stones sprayed into the air, stinging their eyes. Hawk could feel the invisible predator above studying them, calculating their next move. "Move," Hawk barked. "We're not sitting ducks." The team advanced cautiously along a narrow ledge, every step deliberate, every motion a negotiation with death. The hidden enemy below shifted, trying to predict their path, to herd them into a kill zone. Hawk realized that this was no longer just a mission. It was survival against an opponent who had planned for every contingency. Halfway along the ledge, Hawk spotted a faint glint of metal, a sniper rifle partially visible behind a jagged rock. His heart skipped. The hidden enemy had more than one shooter. They were surrounded, trapped between the mountain above and the ambush below. Hawk's mind raced. They needed to gain the high ground, force the sniper into a position where they could engage directly. But the path was narrow and treacherous. Every second was a gamble. "Sir," Ramirez whispered, "we can't fight them all at once. They've got us pinned. If we split up, we'll get picked off." Hawk's eyes never left the ledge ahead. The sniper above was still unseen, but the pressure was palpable. He could almost feel the cold precision in the air, the deliberate patience of someone who had been trained to wait, to study, to strike. "We make the first move," Hawk muttered. We force them to react, keep tight, cover each other, eyes everywhere. The seals obeyed instinctively. Hawk led them forward, each step deliberate. The ledge was barely wide enough for two men side by side, loose gravel threatening to betray every move. Above, the sniper's scope could strike them at any moment. Below, the hidden enemy waited, rifles raised, patience as lethal as the bullets they carried. A sudden shot rang out closer than ever. Hawk dove behind a boulder, dragging Daniels down. The bullet struck inches from his face, sending shards of stone flying. His pulse raced, chest tight with adrenaline. He could hear the shallow, tense breaths of his team. They were alive, but only just. Ramirez fired back, a few suppressive rounds into the cliffside. The echo seemed to mock them. Whoever was above had vanished again, slipping into the jagged rocks like a shadow. Hawk realized the sniper was not just aiming to kill. They were playing with them, wearing down their resolve, studying their patterns, forcing hesitation. Hawk scanned the ledges above, searching for any sign of the sniper. There, a faint movement, almost imperceptible. The figure shifted, adjusting the scope. Hawk's breath caught. The sniper was training on him, waiting for the perfect shot. "Daniels, Cole, Ramirez, hold position," Hawk whispered. "We wait, don't move unless I say, eyes everywhere." The team froze, muscles coiled. Every heartbeat seemed amplified, every sound echoing across the canyon. Hawk's mind raced, calculating angles, predicting the sniper's intentions. They were no longer moving, they were bait, testing the predator's patience as much as their own. Minutes stretched like hours. Hawk's eyes never left the faint silhouette of the sniper. Then, almost imperceptibly, the figure shifted, moving slightly to a new perch. Hawk's pulse thundered. The sniper had repositioned, gaining a better angle. Suddenly, from the shadows below, a rifle cracked. The hidden enemy had opened fire. Bullets tore through the narrow ledge, striking rocks inches from the SEAL's feet. Hawk dove behind a boulder, dragging Daniels with him. The combination of threats above and below was suffocating. "Split flank," Hawk shouted, forcing his team to scatter along the ledge, using every rock and crevice as cover. The mountains echoed with the sounds of gunfire, shouts, and the harsh clatter of stones. Hawk's mind raced. They needed a decisive action or they would be ground down. Then came a pause, a moment of eerie stillness. Hawk could feel the sniper's eyes on him, the hidden enemy waiting below. Every muscle tensed, every nerve screaming. The echo of the sniper's shot lingered in the crisp mountain air, a deadly punctuation mark that reverberated through the canyon. Lieutenant Jake "Hawk" Harrison's pulse thundered in his ears as he pressed himself flat against a jagged boulder. Daniels groaned beside him, clutching his leg, eyes wide with a mix of fear and adrenaline. Ramirez and Cole huddled close, rifles ready, scanning every shadow with meticulous care. The sniper above was no longer a ghost. He was real, trained, and terrifyingly precise. Hawk's mind raced. Every movement they had made, every path they had taken had been anticipated. He had trained for ambushes, for firefights, for terrain advantage, but nothing like this. This enemy didn't just understand the mountains, they owned them. Hawk exhaled slowly, forcing himself to think clearly. "Listen up," he whispered, voice tight but controlled. "We need to find the source of his advantage. There's something up there, something he's using. High ground, cover, angles, there's a pattern. We exploit it, we survive." "Sir," Ramirez muttered, eyes scanning the ridges. "He's using, I don't know, some kind of natural concealment. Every shot is calculated. We can't see him clearly, just reflections, angles, flashes of metal. It's like the mountain is hiding him." Hawk's gaze swept over the jagged peaks, squinting against the morning sun. Then he saw it, a narrow crevice, barely visible in the rock face, perfectly positioned above their path. The sniper had used it as a hidden perch, giving him a commanding view while remaining almost invisible. Hawk's stomach tightened. Whoever built this position had intimate knowledge of the mountain's secrets. "Okay," Hawk muttered, determination stealing his voice. "We can't fight him from down here, we climb higher. That crevice, he thinks it's untouchable. We make it touchable. Move carefully. The team shifted, moving with painstaking precision along the narrow ledge. Loose gravel threatened to betray them at every step. Hawk's fingers dug into the jagged rock, knuckles white with strain. Daniel struggled, pain etched into his face, but Hawk kept him moving. Ramirez and Cole flanked him, rifles raised, eyes darting between every shadow and ridge. Suddenly, the sniper fired again. The bullet tore through the air, striking a boulder inches from Hawk's head. He dropped, dragging Daniels behind cover. The rock exploded in a shower of fragments, dust stinging their eyes. Hawk's chest heaved as he glanced upward, estimating the distance, the angle, the trajectory. The sniper was patient, methodical, confident. Hawk's mind raced. They needed a new approach. Suppression fire wouldn't work. Moving as a group exposed them to lethal shots. They couldn't retreat. The path below was crawling with hidden enemies. Their only chance was to gain higher ground, to force the sniper out of his concealment. Daniels, Ramirez, Cole, cover me, Hawk hissed. I'm moving first. Use my signal, we'll hit the crevice. Keep low, stay tight. Hawk started the climb, each handhold and foothold selected with painstaking care. The boulder-strewn ledge seemed to stretch endlessly. Each rock threatened to give way, each shadow held potential death. Above, the sniper waited, invisible, calculating. Hawk's pulse raced, but his mind was razor-sharp, every instinct honed to survival. Halfway up, Hawk paused. A small glint in the sunlight caught his eye, the sniper adjusting, preparing another shot. Hawk froze, heart pounding. The angle of the crevice gave the sniper a near-perfect vantage point, and yet Hawk had spotted the weakness. The crevice's entrance was slightly exposed from above, a blind spot if approached carefully. Go, Hawk hissed, signaling the team. The SEALs moved like shadows, climbing in careful synchronization. Hawk led, eyeing the crevice with pinpoint focus. Ramirez and Cole flanked him, Daniels following as best he could. Each second felt stretched, elongated, loaded with imminent danger. The mountain seemed alive with anticipation, every rock and crevice a potential death trap. Then a noise, a faint snapping of gravel below. Hawk froze. From the corner of his eye he saw movement, another hidden enemy trying to approach from the lower ridge. The sniper wasn't working alone. Hawk realized with a sinking chill that this ambush had layers. Cover me, Hawk barked, raising his rifle. Suppressive fire erupted. Bullets pinged off rocks and the hidden enemy froze, then scattered back into the shadows. Hawk knew they had bought only seconds, not freedom. He continued the climb, reaching the narrow ledge leading directly to the crevice. Hawk's chest burned, lungs screaming for air, muscles quivering from exertion. One misstep now could mean falling into the enemy's trap or plummeting into the canyon below. Above, the sniper fired again. Hawk rolled behind a jagged rock, the bullet splintering stone inches from his face. Hawk's mind raced. He had to make a decision, stay pinned and risk death, or take the final leap toward the crevice, exposing himself to the sniper's deadly gaze. Hawk took a deep breath. Now or never, he muttered, muscles coiling. He surged upward, using a narrow handhold to launch himself toward the crevice's entrance. Gravel slipped underfoot, heart hammering, adrenaline screaming in every vein. His rifle was ready, aimed at the faint silhouette barely visible inside the crevice. The sniper fired again. Hawk felt the wind rush past him as the bullet tore through the rock he had just left. He lunged forward, arms grasping the rough rock at the crevice's mouth. His body pressed flat against the stone, hiding as much of himself as possible. The sniper's figure shifted slightly, revealing only a portion of the barrel. Hawk aimed carefully. Ramirez, cover left, Hawk hissed. Cole 6. The SEALs moved into position, guns trained, every muscle coiled for action. Hawk steadied himself, breathing shallow and controlled. He had the high ground now, or at least the advantage he needed. The sniper's secret perch was exposed, partially, and Hawk had only one chance to take it. Hawk squeezed the trigger. A sharp crack echoed through the canyon. The sniper's rifle kicked back, and for the first time Hawk saw the figure flinch. The mountains held their breath. Time seemed suspended, the air thick with tension, gunfire, and the metallic scent of adrenaline. The crevice yawned before Lieutenant Jake Hawk Harrison like a dark mouth waiting to swallow him whole. The sniper he had just forced to reveal himself had disappeared, melting deeper into the shadows, but Hawk's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and determination. Somewhere in that narrow, jagged cavity was the enemy, the predator who had toyed with them across the mountains, the unseen force whose bullets had found every crack, every step, every heartbeat. Hawk crouched behind a protruding rock, rifle raised, eyes adjusting to the dim shadows inside the crevice. Daniels huffed beside him, leg trembling but still functional. Ramirez and Cole took positions on either side, rifles trained, senses stretched taut. Every movement was measured. Every second counted. The mountains seemed to hold their breath. "Sir," Ramirez whispered, voice tight. "There's something else. Movement deeper inside, another shooter." Hawk's pulse raced. He had suspected the sniper might not be alone, but now it was undeniable. The ambush was layered, calculated, and deadly. He had trained for situations like this, but nothing could replicate the pressure of facing someone who had already stalked them across treacherous terrain, who knew the land intimately, and who was willing to wait patiently to see them falter. "All right," Hawk muttered, teeth clenched. "We move slowly, clear each section, cover each other, keep eyes on every shadow." The SEALs advanced in a synchronized crawl, weapons raised, fingers on triggers. Every rock, every jagged edge of the crevice was a potential trap. Gravel slipped underfoot, but Hawk's hands dug into the rough surface, anchoring him as he moved. Above them, the mountain offered no respite. Every shot could come from any angle. Suddenly, a faint flash, a reflection of metal. Hawk froze. There in the gloom he saw it, the sniper's scope trained on him. Time seemed to slow. Every muscle coiled, every breath counted. Hawk's mind ran through options in milliseconds. There was only one chance, one decisive move. "Ramirez, cover left," Hawk hissed. "Cole 6, Daniels, stay tight, I'm taking the shot." The SEALs obeyed instinctively. Hawk shifted slightly, angling his rifle through the tiny gap in the rock. He could see the faint outline of the enemy's body, just enough to take a shot without exposing himself fully. His finger squeezed the trigger, and the rifle cracked, echoing through the mountain canyon. The enemy flinched, staggered, but didn't fall. Hawk's heart pounded. The sniper had been expecting this. Bullets ripped past, striking rocks dangerously close. Hawk ducked behind cover, teeth gritted, eyes scanning for the next move. "Keep moving, we've got him on the run," Hawk barked, voice cutting through the tense silence. The SEALs surged forward, pressing deeper into the crevice. The walls narrowed, forcing them into single file. Every step was calculated. Hawk's mind raced. One misstep, one panic, and the mountain would claim them. Suddenly, a shot rang out from above. The original sniper, who had retreated to another hidden perch, had fired again. Hawk felt the bullet tear through the air, striking inches from his head. Gravel exploded beneath him. He dove forward, dragging Daniels down with him. "Keep it tight," Hawk shouted. "We're not done yet." The team advanced, inching closer to the hidden enemy. Hawk could see more now, another figure emerging from deeper in the crevice, rifle aimed with deadly precision. Hawk's heart leapt. They were facing a coordinated team, not a single sniper. His pulse hammered in his ears. "Hold," Hawk whispered, voice barely audible. "Don't engage until I give the signal." He adjusted his aim, eyes narrowing. The closer enemy had exposed a critical angle, the perfect opportunity. Hawk's mind focused, body coiled, muscles taut. This was the moment where instinct, training, and courage intersected. Hawk squeezed the trigger. A sharp crack echoed through the crevice. The enemy staggered, rifle clattering against the rocks. Hawk didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, pressing closer, weapon raised. The second figure opened fire but miscalculated, leaving an opening Hawk exploited with lethal precision. "Ramirez, cover the flank," Hawk shouted. Ramirez fired suppressive rounds, pinning the remaining enemies against the crevice walls. Cole covered their six, scanning for hidden threats. Hawk pressed deeper into the narrow passage, eyes locked on the sniper who had tormented them across the mountains. The final confrontation was close now. Hawk could feel the heat of exertion, hear the ragged breaths of his team, smell the metallic tang of adrenaline and blood. The sniper shifted, attempting another shot, but Hawk was faster this time. He squeezed the trigger again. The crack of the rifle echoed, and this time the enemy collapsed, rifle sliding across the rocks. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Hawk's chest heaved, muscles trembling. The sniper had been taken down. Hawk didn't move immediately. He stayed low, scanning the shadows, ensuring there were no surprises. Daniels groaned beside him, but alive. Ramirez and Cole were tense, rifles still raised, eyes searching the darkness. Hawk allowed himself a brief exhale. "Clear," he muttered, though his voice still carried the tension of the last minutes. "We got him, but stay sharp. The mountain may have more secrets." The team moved cautiously, navigating the crevice, confirming that all threats were neutralized. Each step was slow, deliberate, the weight of survival pressing on them. Hawk's mind replayed the ordeal, the sniper's precision, the hidden enemies, the treacherous terrain. They had survived through training, instinct, and sheer will, but it had been close, too close. As they reached the mouth of the crevice, the sun broke through the peaks, casting light across the valley. Hawk paused, scanning the horizon. The mountains were quiet now, but the echoes of the firefight lingered in his mind. The sense of danger hadn't fully lifted, it never would, but they had survived against impossible odds. "Move out," Hawk ordered, voice steady. "We've got a path back. Stay alert, stay tight." The SEALs began their careful descent, adrenaline still coursing, muscles screaming from exertion. Every step reminded them of the mountain's deadly power, every shadow a reminder of what they had faced. They were alive, but the memory of the sniper, the hidden enemies, and the treacherous terrain would remain etched in their minds forever. Cliffhanger. As Hawk led the team down the slope, he paused. From the distant ridge, a glint of metal caught his eye, another scope aimed directly at them. Hawk's blood ran cold. Even after the deadly standoff, the mountain was not done with them. Another threat waited, hidden, patient, calculating. And Hawk realized, the final shot may not have been theirs to take yet. The distant glint of metal froze Lieutenant Jake "Hawk" Harrison in place. A new sniper. Or perhaps the same one who had stalked them across the mountains, now repositioned, waiting to strike again. Hawk's pulse thundered in his ears, every instinct screaming danger. He swallowed hard, forcing calm, and signaled the team to freeze. Daniels, grimacing with pain but alert, pressed against the rock, eyes wide. Ramirez and Cole scanned the ridges, rifles raised, every sense sharpened. The mountain was alive with shadows. Every boulder, every jagged ledge, every sun-drenched ridge could conceal a killer. Hawk's mind raced, calculating angles, potential escape routes, and the sniper's likely positions. They had survived the crevice, neutralized one threat, but the mountain had one final trick left, and it wasn't finished with them yet. "Stay low, move carefully, watch every shadow," Hawk whispered. "We're not out yet." The SEALs began their cautious descent, each step deliberate, hands gripping jagged rocks for stability. Loose gravel slid beneath their boots, threatening to betray their presence. Every sound, the scrape of rock, the whistle of wind, even their breathing could give them away. Hawk's muscles burned, lungs screamed, but he forced focus. One misstep, one moment of hesitation, and the mountain could swallow them whole. Suddenly, a shot rang out from the distant ridge. Hawk felt the vibration of the bullet strike the earth nearby. Daniels yelped, stumbling slightly, but Hawk grabbed him, steadying his balance. "Eyes sharp, keep moving," Hawk shouted, adrenaline surging. The team moved like shadows, hugging the cliffside, seeking cover behind every boulder, every jagged edge. Hawk spotted a narrow path leading down the mountainside, a potential escape route, but it was exposed, leaving them vulnerable to sniper fire. The only way was through, and time was running short. Ramirez cover left, Cole 6, Daniels tight, we move together, Hawk barked. With precision born of training and desperation, the SEALs surged forward. Gravel slid beneath their boots, rocks tumbled into the valley, and the echo of gunfire rang across the canyon. Hawk led, eyes scanning every ridge, every crevice, every shadow. The sniper above fired again, bullets striking dangerously close. Hawk ducked, dragging Daniels behind a protruding boulder. He calculated the angle, the timing. One leap could bring them out of the sniper's line of sight, but only if executed perfectly. Hawk signaled the team, waiting for the split second when the sniper's attention would flick elsewhere. Then, with a sudden burst, they moved. Hawk led the charge, muscles coiled, every movement deliberate. The SEALs followed in perfect synchronization, each step measured, each breath controlled. The sniper fired again, but Hawk had anticipated the timing. A bullet ripped past, striking the ledge they had just vacated. Hawk pressed on, heart hammering, every nerve on edge. Halfway along the path, another threat emerged, two figures appearing from behind rocks on the lower ridge. Hidden enemies. Hawk's mind raced. They were pinned between the sniper above and reinforcements below, but retreat was not an option. The path forward was the only chance. Ramirez, suppressive fire, Hawk shouted. Cole, cover 6, Daniels, move with me. The SEALs unleashed controlled fire, forcing the hidden enemies to take cover. Hawk seized the opportunity, dragging Daniels along the narrow path. They advanced, inch by precarious inch, the mountain seeming to close around them. The wind howled, carrying the echo of gunfire and the metallic tang of blood and adrenaline. Suddenly, Hawk spotted a natural overhang, a narrow ledge that could shield them from the sniper's line of sight. He signaled the team, moving carefully, hands gripping the rock, boots sliding over gravel. The sniper fired again, bullets pinging off nearby stones. Hawk's pulse roared in his ears. One misstep now could mean death. Almost there, Hawk muttered, forcing calm. Stay tight, stay quiet, one more push. The team reached the overhang, pressing against the rock, catching their breath. Hawk scanned the ridges, searching for movement. The sniper above had repositioned, but now Hawk could see faint footprints in the dirt, a hint that the enemy had retreated, perhaps realizing their advantage had been compromised. Hawk didn't relax. The mountain had more surprises, and he knew it. Good work so far, Hawk muttered, voice low. But we're not out yet, keep moving, eyes open. The SEALs continued the descent, using every skill, every ounce of strength, every bit of instinct. Hawk led them down switchbacks, using shadows and rocks for cover, exploiting every advantage. The mountains were merciless, but so were they. Every step brought them closer to safety, but the tension never left. Every glance over the shoulder was a reminder of the sniper's deadly precision. Then a distant sound, a shout muffled but urgent, echoed through the valley. Hawk froze, enemy reinforcements. Another ambush, his pulse surged, adrenaline spiking. Move, don't stop, Hawk barked, signaling the team to surge forward. They pressed on, descending steep ridges, navigating treacherous terrain, heart hammering with each precarious step. Hawk felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, not just for survival but for the lives of his team. Daniels stumbled again, but Hawk steadied him. Ramirez and Cole followed, tense, alert, every muscle coiled. Finally, the jagged cliffs began to ease, leading to a wider ledge that sloped down toward the valley floor. Hawk's heart leapt. Freedom. Safety. Yet he knew better than to celebrate too soon. The sniper, the hidden enemies, the treacherous terrain, they were all still possibilities. Almost there, Hawk whispered, voice taut. Keep moving, eyes everywhere, don't let your guard down. The SEALs advanced, careful but steady. The mountains opened up, the valley stretching below them. Hawk scanned for threats. A shadow moved on the distant ridge, a fleeting glimpse, a reminder that the mountain had secrets yet untold. Hawk's hand hovered over his rifle, ready, but the figure didn't follow. Perhaps they had retreated. Perhaps the battle was finally over. Hawk led the team down the final slope, muscles screaming, lungs burning, hearts pounding. Every step felt monumental, every breath a victory. The valley floor was within reach. The sniper's reign of terror, the hidden enemy's deadly coordination, they had survived. By training, by instinct, by sheer willpower, they had survived. As they reached the valley floor, Hawk allowed himself a long exhale. The sun bathed the team in light, illuminating the scars of the battle, the dirt, the blood, the fatigue etched into their faces. Daniels leaned heavily on Hawk, gritting his teeth, while Ramirez and Cole scanned the ridges one last time. Hawk's eyes lingered on the mountains behind them. The peaks were silent now, majestic and deadly, as if nothing had occurred. But he knew the truth. The mountain had tested them, tried to break them, pushed them to the edge, and they had survived. For a long moment the team simply stood there, catching their breath, the tension slowly ebbing. Hawk allowed himself a brief glance at Daniel's leg, minor wounds, nothing that would keep him down. Ramirez and Cole were tense but alive. Then Hawk looked up at the ridges one final time. The glint of metal was gone, the shadows silent. For now, the mountain had released them, but Hawk knew better than to assume it was over. The mountains held secrets, and some secrets were patient. "Move out," Hawk said finally, voice calm but firm. "We get back to base, debrief. Then we plan for the next time, because there will be a next time." The SEALs nodded, moving with renewed focus, each step carrying the weight of survival, the triumph of skill, and the bond forged in the crucible of the mountains. As they disappeared into the valley, the wind whispered across the peaks, carrying the echoes of gunfire, footsteps, and the pulse of survival. The mountains had tested them, pushed them, almost claimed them, but they had endured. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows, the mountain's secrets waited, patient, silent,